and welcome to another episode of Really Fucking Scary Stories. I'm your host, Sam Goodman, coming to you from the Pale Horse Media Co. studios in the sunny and the beautiful and the haunted downtown Phoenix, Arizona. I hope that you are doing absolutely fine. How about that? We'll stick with fine in this crazy, wacky, and gruesome world. Do me a favor, head over to www.palehorsemedia.co. You can check in on this podcast, all the other ones that we've got going on, such as the Hop Nerd and Hey Y'all with Sam Goodman. We also have a pretty epic merch store, if I do say so myself. We've got all kinds of really fucking scary merch, all kinds of merch from the Hop Nerd, and all kinds of Hey Y'all stuff if you want to kind of let your hillbilly flag fly, if you will. And speaking of the haunted and the beautiful Phoenix, Arizona, that's exactly what we're going to dive into today. We're going to talk about 13 of the most haunted places in Phoenix, Arizona. And this is going to be kind of a run and gun, right? We're going to hit them fast and go through, and we'll just chat about them. We're going to talk about some of the most well-known paranormal hotspots in Phoenix, and we'll touch a little bit about the ghosts that may roam around them. So let's dive right in. So this one's near and dear to me because all of you know that I've been hanging out and living in the Phoenix metro area for 11-ish years now. It's been a minute. So I believe that or not, kind of looking back on it, I'm like, holy crap, like I've been in Phoenix for a minute. But growing up in Virginia and then from Virginia originally and then coming out here, I've never really paid that much attention to kind of the haunted stuff. We covered a little bit back in season 1, and I thought, how much fun would it be to kind of hit this top 13 kind of list? And we landed on 13 for the obvious reasons, right? To hit this kind of top 13 list. And then when I'm cruising around the area here, when I'm cruising around the valley, when I'm cruising around Phoenix, I can look out for these spots and maybe go try to do some investigations at some point. So as you know, we go around and we go actually on location. We did that during the first season. And so that's fun. I'm always looking for those opportunities. Maybe that's what we'll shoot for in the season 3 coming up, before the end of the year. But let's do this now. Let's jump in to the top 13 most haunted places in Phoenix, Arizona. And starting off the list here is the one, the only Hotel San Carlos, aka the Crowne Plaza. And we talked about this when we had an episode dedicated to this one back in season 1, so you can go back and listen to the more detailed story of this one if you would like to. But let's jump in. The Hotel San Carlos is one of the most distinctive spots in Phoenix history, and it's beautiful. It's just a really interesting looking spot. Back in its heyday, it hosted tons of different celebrity guests, people like Marilyn Monroe, Mae West, Clark Gable, and on and on and on and on. It was one of those spots, right? But some of these stars, they might be still hanging around. There's some sightings, but they're not the main ones, right? They're not seen very often. The one that is a young lady by the name of Leon Jensen, who apparently jumped to her death off of the hotel roof in 1928. So she was suffering from a broken heart. Some of the story goes on to disagree with that and say that, no, it's not that broken heart tragedy bullshit, that she actually had like a prolonged illness that she was living with and she just wanted to get away from it. Either way, if you're in the mood to see a kind of lady in white-esque ghost, check out the Hotel San Carlos, aka the Crowne Plaza, down off of 202 North Central Avenue in the beautiful, the lovely, and now we know the haunted Phoenix, Arizona. Number 2, the Orpheum Theater. So the Orpheum Theater looks stunning, and it is indeed beautiful, but do not forget that appearances can be deceiving, because as with all of these beautiful old buildings, they often have a little bit of a creepy side to them. So it's apparently haunted, and it's apparently haunted by a ghost known as Maddie, who has been spotted by staff and theater goers alike. So just imagine me like hanging out in the Orpheum Theater, and then you just like look over, you're chatting with Mattie, this nice Maddie girl that's sitting beside of you, a person that's sitting beside of you, and then they're just gone. Oh yeah, fuck that. I think that would be like, yeah, fuck that, right? And pass. And I've listened to some of these stories. I've read some of these stories about, these ghosts that appear, and they're like, they looked totally normal from like the head until I got down to the like right around their knees, and I realized they didn't have legs. No. I can deal with like the disappearance. I can deal with like the here again, now they're not. I can even deal with like the levitation kind of floating through the space and even through like a wall or a door. But like the no legs, just for whatever reason, kind of fucking creeps me out. So I'm like hard pass on that one. Number 3, the Saguaro Boulevard. So there's this really tragic and really macabre, gruesome tale that's connected to the location. Basically, in the early 80s, there was a young girl that was kidnapped and unfortunately murdered. And pieces of her body, so she was dismembered, and pieces of her body were hidden in just a slew of places throughout a house here on Saguaro Boulevard. So chopped up, hidden in various kind of cubby holes around the house, a foot here, a hand there, a head there kind of thing, right? So just gruesome, awful, macabre, right? It's believed that she is now causing paranormal activity in the area. So locals report kind of the common general haunting stuff, right? So hearing crying, screaming, can't find the source, right? So to the point to where they're like looking for someone crying, right? They're hearing screaming, crying, and they're frantically searching to find out where it's coming from. Some also claim to see the apparition of a little girl outside the house in question. So she always appears scared and trying to run away. So it's you kind of get the normal haunting stuff, you get the screaming, the crying, to the point where it's so loud that it's jarring. But then you couple that with the apparition, and you have some real crazy shit happening over at Saguaro Boulevard. So moving on to number 4, Deer Valley School. Phoenix is certainly not short of haunted buildings, as we're learning today, but some have an overabundance of kind of certain haunted properties, and Phoenix in particular, schools. Like there's a ton of like haunted schools. So DV, Deer Valley High School, apparently students run into a male ghost with some degree of regularity. Like they see him pretty constantly, and he has a nickname of Dewey. Most often he appears in the school auditorium, but he's been known to mess around with kind of lights and projectors and just kind of anything that he can kind of tinker with and kind of fuck with people. And they often hear his disembodied voice. Others go on to report that they just simply feel his presence or feel like they're being watched. They hear kind of faint crying, faint moaning. So yeah, if you want to go check out a really creepy school, DV school would be it. Now this one's interesting. Number 5. Glendale, Arizona, Pizza Hut. There's a Pizza Hut in Glendale, Arizona. So Pizza Hut's probably not the first thing that comes to mind when you're like, perusing, ghost stories, or you're looking at like, you're watching like Zach Bagans on Ghost Adventures. Although I think like the Ghost Adventures crew, the Zach Bagans in a Pizza Hut would be hilarious. But it's probably not the first thing that comes to mind when you start thinking about paranormal activity. But there's been years and years and years of reports about this location. There's just tons of unexplained activity that faucets in the bathroom turn on and off by themselves, that customers hear all kinds of ghostly, ghastly noises, and primarily they hear children laughing, babies crying, and there's no one there, right? So you imagine you're working in Pizza Hut, you're just loving life, hanging out, cooking pies, cooking up those new stuffed crusts, or cooking up those new ones that are just stuffed crust, right, with no pizza in the middle, and you're just, you're done, you're sweeping up, your coworkers have gone home, you're last person out, you're going to lock up, and you just hear like babies crying, and then the water faucets are turning on and off. Again, that's a big hard pass. Like, fuck that, pass. Moving on to number 6, San Marcos Resort and Hotel. San Marcos Hotel and Resort on 1 South San Marcos Place in Chandler, Arizona. The well-known San Marcos Hotel, aka 1 San Marcos Place, was built in 1913, and over the years it has played a host to many well-known guests. So again, one of those kind of famous hotspots of just cool and famous people. These days, the most famous guests staying there are ghosts, right? Spirits. And most people report seeing a female spirit that's just kind of drifting around the hotel, just kind of enjoying the resort. There's also reports of a disembodied moans that take place, of a male spirit. And staff also say that they frequently receive calls from extensions within the hotel that do not exist or that have been disconnected for years. So again, put yourself as front desk at the San Marcos, and you're getting a call from like room 1313 that doesn't fucking exist, right? Or room 666, and you're going, oh, okay, quit. Here's my instant notice. I'm getting the hell out of here, right? So again, hard pass. Moving on to the second haunted high school on our list, Highland Junior High. We really do have like a ton of haunted high schools around here for some reason. And Highland Junior High is made the list. So the locker room is allegedly haunted by a young girl who flushes the toilets, turns on blow dryers, bangs on locker doors. So she's just in there stirring up all kinds of crazy, fun mischief, right? Again, I try to put myself into these scenarios. So just imagine you're like a kid, right? You're junior high school age kid, and you're just hanging out. You're like the last person out of the locker room, and your toilets are flushing and fucking poltergeist going on in the locker room, right? How insane. But the legend has it that she was killed by her own father. He ran her over with a tractor by accident. There's no real evidence of who she really is, but most people have decided to go with a name someone gave her in the past, which is Lily. So the ghost of Highland Junior High School is AKA Lily. The Superstition Mountains, number 8 on our list of most haunted in Phoenix. With a name like the Superstition Mountains, you kind of go, yeah, I can see that. How could this not be haunted, right? But it's the rumored location of the Lost Dutchman's Mine, which is believed to not only be cursed, but to have spirits who stand guard over it. People down in the valley have described seeing just wacky, wonky light anomalies and shadows up in the mountains, which they believe to be these magical spirit guardians. But despite legends in the surrounding area, it's still a popular spot. Like, a lot of folks head up there to hike, they go up there to hang out. But yeah, so that's the supposed location of the Lost Dutchman's Mine. And that might be an episode that we do just kind of on its own, talking about the mine. But Superstition Mountains, beautiful, absolutely beautiful, and apparently really fucking scary. Jefferson Park, number 9 on our list. On the surface, Jefferson Park looks just like any other children's playground, kind of in the heart of any suburban neighborhood. Insert any nondescript city here, right? So when night falls, the atmosphere becomes way different, and the park is haunted by the spirit of a little girl who was raped and murdered in the park. So just super duper sad mood kind of overall. Her spirit lingers here as kind of midnight approaches. Teenagers and passing adults often hear the girl screaming and have also glimpsed her apparition on several occasions. So it's more of like the vibe there, right? You kind of get like that sad kind of shift as dark falls, right? But then also seeing and hearing her screaming, seeing the apparition, right? So that's how they tie that back to that girl that was that young girl that was sadly raped and murdered in that park. We're back to another high school, and more particular, more of an auditorium in a high school, but the Peoria High School Performing Arts Center. So we're in the auditorium, and it's a performing center at Peoria High School. So according to one former theater teacher there, there's a ghost that haunts. It's a spirit of a teacher who fell from the catwalk above the stage. So I don't know about you, but when I was in high school, we went to like a super old high school. And you're kind of like looking up at like those rickety catwalks up above the high school auditorium thing, and you can just see like this accident happening. I could totally see this happening. So somebody basically fell from that catwalk and died basically on the auditorium floor. But the school administrator, they're not really like coming clean about that. They're not confirming nor denying, but that is the legend of the Peoria High School Performing Arts Center, that it is from a teacher that fell and died off of the catwalk, and now their ghost continues to haunt. Rawson House, down on 113th North 6th Street in Phoenix, Arizona, and this is an absolutely gorgeous house. I will tell you, it's just a stunning Gothic style house. It's amazing. Like, it's amazeballs. Like, this house is like if bazillionaire, like, yeah, I would buy and live in this haunted house. It's just epic. So if there's going to be in one house in Phoenix that you would guess would be haunted just by like driving through, you would guess this, right? Just by looking at it. It is, again, as I mentioned, just absolutely beautiful, breathtaking. It was originally built back in 1895 for a well-known local doctor and his family, and has since been transformed into a museum. So if you'd like to go take a gander at it, you can. I have not done that yet, but I totally should. Shame on me for not going yet. But most of the paranormal activity here has been attributed to the spirit of a former caretaker who was shot dead right outside the property in the 1980s. Visitors and employees alike have reported some strange occurrences, including phantom footsteps coming down the stairs, items kind of moving around when nobody's there, and even some reports of the caretaker's apparition. So, beautiful house. You can Google this, the Rawson House in downtown Phoenix. It is wonderful. So we're at another high school for number 12, Chandler High School. This is the last school to make our list here, but Chandler High, which is among the oldest schools in the entire state of Arizona, was founded back in 1914. Just imagine this. This was only 2 years